was an abrupt fade.
I'm sorry, that wasn't a great fade. That was not a perfect fade. I'm sorry.
All right, forgive me.
That
Hello,
was,
everyone.
yeah.
Welcome to the Great Transition. Hey, Saf. Hey, Chris, behind the scenes over there.
Yes,
Hello.
yes.
Oh, I'm feeling upset in my stomach over this topic. Before we begin,
Don't talk about stomach right away, man. Today I went to whatever, like I have this problem with my stomach. Anyway, I went to a person who's is gonna put me on some strict diet now, so don't say stomach. Keep going. Just keep going with
okay?
the
Are you
show. I'm
gonna?
sorry.
Okay,
I'm
forget it.
sorry.
We'll
That
talk
that
about that
was
later.
that was not planned. Yeah.
What a week. There's some YouTube channel that was created not so long ago, TD News. I don't know what it is. I don't know who's running it, but the guy's got like millions of hits every day. He's like apocalypse in China, apocalypse in Turkey, apocalypse in Belgium. Like he
Mm.
shows someone sending, I don't know where he's getting it. The flooding that's going on around the world is like,
Oh.
I don't know. We don't have it on our news here,
Yep.
so you would never know,
Yeah.
but I don't know if this guy's channel is totally fake. But oh my, what's going on with the fires and the whole west coast of the United States is still super hot. We have
Yeah.
this thing called a heat dome. Remember we had killer
Hmm.
bees, killer hornets. What do they call them? Murder hornets. We had
Murder
murder hornets.
hornets. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now we have a heat dome. So there's all these
So
new things that we're
what's
finding.
that?
A dome of heat. I don't know, but
Okay.
what's
All the
112 Fahrenheit?
all these thriller like
Yeah, exactly,
names for
exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, so it's been we'll maybe we'll have to have an episode about all these natural things that are going on, but it's been quite a week, and I would say that probably some people who are sensitive to these things,
Mm.
it's not such a spiritual thing, the same way that birds kind of get out of town before a tsunami or something like that. I would venture to say that people, some of the pressure that we all start to feel has to do with actually don't people who have certain issues with their knees and stuff feel when the weather's changing?
Oh yeah,
Stuff
yeah,
like that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Their
think
hips
that
and knees and
well,
stuff?
I do know this. People who had hip replacement, knee, when they have metal in their body or something like that, they suffer. I believe when the seasons
The
change, they
pressure
suffer.
changes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so if you're feeling a little upset, might just be the pressure in the air. So be nice to your neighbor. So here we are at the great transition where we discuss what's going on in the world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. Uh, Asaf, my great friend in Israel, Chris, who's lives in Israel, happens to be in Texas with the family right now. I'm over on the East Coast of the United States in New Jersey. We are looking at what's going on in the world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. We have an interesting topic today. Asaf,
Yeah.
do you, how many minutes, maybe we'll put it in hours, a
Okay.
day do you spend either on the phone or on the computer, would you say?
Most of my waking time. It's just the way in which I do my work and connect with the people that I'm in touch with, whether it's for collaborating on things or even just for communicating. So yeah, a lot of that time.
So you get up
Plus
in the morning.
our Kabbalah studies, our daily Kabbalah studies are in this day and age, in the COVID age, are completely done through the internet. So that's another chunk of my day that goes there. So yeah.
Well, good thing is nobody really cares that we study Kabbalah, so we'll leave that on the side. But everything else,
Right.
um, that's not so interesting to whoever's selling data around. But we get up in the morning, we check, check the news. Who sent me a message? If you have friends on other parts of the world, maybe you got a bunch of messages that happened while you were sleeping. We see what's going on. Then we start,
Mm.
we check social media, check the news. Then we start with work. And we go through our emails and all this, everything that's going on our phone. So people are spending, I don't know, 30 hours a week, maybe more. I don't know, tens of hours on their phones. I'm sure there's all kind of data
Oh,
about
there's all
exactly how
kinds of
much.
statistics. I remember
So
one that says like 150 times a day we look at our phone, like look back into our phone. So that's pretty crazy.
a lot.
Yeah.
Well, this was a piece of data that I collected for before the show. Was every day we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data.
What's a quintillion? I know
It's a
it
lot.
sounds like a
It's a
lot,
lot.
but
It's more than a billion for sure.
well, it's
It's
probably
more
a
than a
lot more
trillion.
than a
Okay, it's
billion.
more than it's when it's next zero after trillion, or
All
next
right, here it
fourth
is.
zero after trillion.
How
It's
many
10 to the
zeros?
18th. So one, yeah,
Wow.
to
Okay,
18th. So
18
yeah,
zero and 18
yeah,
zeros.
it's a lot. That's
That's a
crazy.
Okay,
lot.
so
Okay.
even when you're not on the phone doing something on the phone, it's still listening to you.
Right.
And some people even have things in their house. They're an Alexa or the Google one or the Apple one that's also listening to you. So what happens is all of that information is bundled and sold. It's sold to people who want to sell us stuff.
Right.
So everything basically going on in our lives
That's a new
is
oil, basically. Data. Data mining, the big data is like that's the new oil. Yeah.
so everything that we say,
Mhm.
look at. Oh, here's another thing interesting. Suppose I'm scrolling through something, I'm scrolling through Facebook, whatever,
Mm.
and then I see something that I like, a person I like, and I zoom in.
Mhm.
They also know that I zoomed in.
Oh yeah.
If, yeah, everything, they know
Yeah,
what I zoomed in on.
how long you look at a video, whether you paused at a certain point and then went back to it, and it reads you much more than you read yourself. That's the crazy thing, isn't it? Because it's a machine that keeps track of every digital action you're doing, then in a sense it has a much better much more complete and detailed perspective on on you than yourself and other people who know you, just because it documents your each and every activity much better than you can ever do. You'd have to work full time to to document yourself, and this thing is just doing it as you go. So yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about the capacity of
Okay,
that.
so imagine you're 10 years old and you hear some bad news. Like for example, you're older than 10. Imagine your first love. Like,
Okay.
do you remember what you did after your first heartbreak? Probably not, maybe, but probably not. Do you
Mm.
remember where you went? No, but this generation, it's known where you went, what you listened to, what you did after your
Mm-hmm.
heartbreak. It
Right.
knows where you went after your graduation. Do you remember where you went after you finished your elementary school? No, but that data is not for you because we didn't have phones
I,
at that
I
point.
I
But
would say it's even crazier. I would say these machines don't algorithms. They don't just know where you go when you have your first heartbreak, like you say. They direct you where to go based on already prior knowledge prior data that
that'll
it
take
has.
more explaining. But can you explain that quickly? Without,
Well,
I don't want to do a tech conversation here, but can you explain
yeah,
quickly
that's
what you mean?
that's why I looked into this for a long time, a couple of years ago, something like five years ago, maybe something like that. I was in touch with someone who's engaged in cyber warfare. He's a professor in university. I did some sort of academic work for him. In any case, it's insane what is happening. It's insane. The amount of data, first of all, is you have no idea. It's not just everything you do. That's just the first level. The first level is documenting every digital burp that you make, right? The second level of this is that this data that is not just documented, it's being created. There is data that is created based on existing data, through analysis and synthesis of AI. So, for instance, if you do something on a regular basis, then obviously, you know, even I can say, you're doing this, you're working out every Thursday. So I know that you're going to be in the gym. I know that you're going to, go through certain stores. I know that you might be hungry on your way back. That's one thing. But what if, because there's a lot of data accumulated about you, and there's a smart AI that looks at all this data and can create approximations and estimations, now we can say, oh, this lady is is likely going to get pregnant in the next few months, based on all sorts of data points like the age, the socioeconomic economic status, personality traits that exemplified on Facebook, what she likes, what she doesn't like. Now you have a machine that estimates what's going to happen with people with a very high degree of probability. And so that's what we're up against, basically. There's constant work of very smart, sophisticated algorithms combining data about us from many different points. They're combining the data from both the websites you go to and the posts that you like and the videos that you watch, and geotagging you right where your phone is when that happens. Did you watch this video on the phone? Did you watch it on the go? Did you watch it on your desktop computer? Maybe now it's your research time. Now is your work time. Now is your dinner time. They know all of those things, those algorithms, and they know how to combine that data and produce an estimation, produce a prediction about your behavior, about your next move. And all of that is in the service of selling you things. But this is going on all the time. Was that too much? Did you
No,
did
that's
you
fine. So, but
Okay.
what I thought when you said that was, we're living here and it's not really clear. We're not seeing all of those data points, right? Like I get up, I feel like this, I look at this, I want to eat
Right.
this, I do this, I go somewhere. We don't see all those data points. We're living here. And then on top of us is this
Mm-hmm.
network of labels basically coming down onto us. And all it's doing is really matching us. It would turn out that once that kind of software came down onto us, we're not, I mean, it seems like almost like we don't have any free will. Not take out of the equation for a second that they may have nefarious intentions.
Well, they have
They may try and be guiding
profit-based
us somewhere or
intentions,
selling us
and
something.
of course,
But
yeah.
but putting the software on top of just it's just putting all those ones and zeros on top of what we're doing. What I'm trying to say is it's almost the software of who we are, based on what you said. Like
Absolutely.
once you have enough, once you've accumulated enough detail.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. Again, just from
So take
the
take out all of the Illuminati,
no, 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 no.
nefarious, selling
Forget about
me,
the intent. For
corruption.
Forget
Yeah.
about intent. Forget about who created even these algorithms. There is today uh, uh, data that goes into machines, and they can calculate based on, we're talking, this is what's called big data. We're talking about a lot of data. When you put a lot of data into
What you're
these
buying, for what
algorithms,
groceries you're ordering, where you go, how
just
many
think
hours
everything.
you sleep, how many steps you took during the day. Are you a sedentary? Do you have a
Look,
sedentary
if
life?
I if yeah,
Are,
exactly. If I told you now your whole job in life is to study this person named Seth Brightman, right? You're going to watch his every move. You're going to document all of that. And now you don't just, it's not just you have an army of people who are waiting for Seth in every corner of his life, taking the picture, taking the taking notes. You have an army, and you have an army of scientists that are taking all of this data,
it's like the
and
Truman
they
Show.
are but that's literally what's happening in terms of the algorithms, especially the AI based ones. And so the what's happening is, this is like the new kind of warfare commercially, and militarily, I believe. The who's best at creating the software that can, the software, the gadgets, whatever it is, that can collect more data and analyze it and produce more accurate predictions. That's what's going on behind the scenes, where us users, consumers,
So
profiles on
there's
Facebook and YouTube, we just watch stuff and chat, right? But behind it, there's this whole industry that is trying to just capitalize on that in every possible way. And yeah, anyway, you
there's
get the idea.
some we still have somewhat of a, and this mirrors our, we're already in the world of Ein Sof. We're already exist. We're already completely connected. When I fart, it reaches across the world to you. Can I say fart on the Kabbalah channel? I already did
Well,
twice.
well,
So
we
anything we do
we,
is
we
affecting the whole
promote
network.
the exposure of the laws
Wholesome,
of
right?
nature and human
Right.
nature.
It's true.
So
It is
you can just express
okay.
human nature and laws of nature. Go for
Um,
it.
so everything we do,
Right,
since we're in a closed system, everything we do affects the rest of the system. We're
right.
in the world of Ein Sof now. We have no clue about that. That's why we all treat each other so absolutely horribly, because we don't realize the consequences across the universe. I mean, there is this thing in quantum physics called
Quantum
non
entanglement.
quantum
Entanglement.
entanglement, right? Where
Yeah.
something happens here and then like 5 light years away,
Yeah,
like
Einstein
something.
called it spooky action at a distance. That's literally how he called it. He because he didn't know how to come to grips with it, but he knew that, this is a phenomenon that needs to be understood. That's how he called it. Yeah, it's pretty
Okay,
cool.
so we're living in the world of Ein Sof right now, but we don't feel it at all, right? We just
Right.
don't understand. Otherwise, we would feel totally different.
Oh,
So,
now I
so
know where you wanted to go a couple minutes before. Can I
yeah,
backtrack for a
go.
second?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What you're saying is actually really cool. Um, so just like there's an AI that, because it has a lot of data about you right now and your past you, right? It has a lot of data of Seth from the moment he made his first sign up to any software, or clicked his first like, to
Or if I
today.
was born and there happens to be a mobile phone in the house or an Alexa
Of
in the house,
course.
it heard everything I ever said in my house. Or
Right. And of course, this becomes more and more extreme when you're talking about younger and younger age groups,
and
which
if there's
were
surveillance cameras in this at every town hall and on every street corner
exactly.
and everywhere.
Yes.
Okay.
So the AI that has all of that data until today, it can make a lot of predictions about tomorrow. Now, in a sense, to that algorithm, what we're going to do in many ways is transparent. It knows your schedule, it knows your habits, it knows your traits. This, what I'm saying now, for people who haven't researched this information a little bit, may sound really like I'm exaggerating, but it's really not. You can go look it up and just look at the research. It's crazy. The algorithms today can, for instance, based on like 200 likes, statistically, that you've clicked on Facebook, they can know your personality traits as well as a good friend knows you. It's things. The comparisons and the statistics about this are just mind-boggling. Anyway, so this AI knows your next moves in many ways. It can predict your next steps, your next moves, and not just you, but on a social scale, on a global scale. It knows where the wind is moving in terms of preferences, values. This is the most cutting edge stuff that people are, cyber experts are, cyber warfare experts are working on now, right? So in a sense, what it tells you from a Kabbalistic perspective, the meeting point of this with the Kabbalistic perspective is that the upper system that we exist in, what you mentioned before as the world of Ein Sof, that's a system that already knows, that already contains all of, let's say, the possible directions we can go, all of the probabilities, all of those possible routes and paths and steps we might take. All of that is obvious. It's clear. It's clear as day if you're on the level of that program. If you're in the world of Ein Sof, then all of that is not a question to you because it's not hidden. It's all open to you. It's all revealed. So
Okay,
that's
so
the
hold on.
interesting meeting
There's
point here. Maybe
there's
that's where
another
you wanted to go. Yeah.
yeah, there's another thing here. It's called what do you call it in Hebrew? Matsui v'ratsui. It's like where
Right.
my current state and then like my future state. So the
Yes.
problem
Or
and
or
in that
existing state and desired state. Yeah.
existing state and desired state, right? So the gap between those, like
Mm.
if everything is already known, but we're still dealing with this thing
There
where we're
are records, spiritual records, that it's just like this big data that we're talking about. It's just that we're collecting the data, like the machines are collecting
from
Google's
below to
machines, and
above, right?
exactly, yes. Facebook and Google and the like are collecting data about humanity from below upwards, right? But the data already exists from above downwards. That's what we call the records, the accumulation of the records from the world of Ein Sof all the way down to this world, 125 degrees of levels of concealment over those records. And now they're just playing themselves out on their way back up. That's
Okay,
basically.
so
Did
okay,
you want
but
to?
there's a
Is that
big
what you,
diff.
where you wanted to go? I don't.
Yeah, yeah. So
Maybe-
there's a couple doors we opened here. So this one between the existing state and the desired state and that gap between them, we're
Mhm.
going to talk about that closing. You know what that is. So
Right.
there was in like 200 years ago there was a prison problem in England. It turned out there was too many prisoners or more prison. The ratio of guards to prisoners was a problem.
Wait,
Okay,
wait. Where is that?
somewhere in England a couple hundred years ago.
Ah,
200
okay,
years ago,
okay.
300 years
I
ago.
didn't hear a
Okay.
couple hundred years ago. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
What they did, they built a prison that was circular, and
Mm.
all the prisoners were imagine a circular prison. They even have this in some movies you've seen it. And each prisoner or two prisoners are in a cell. So you have like what's the first floor, second floor. I don't know how many floors it was. Say three floors, four
Mm-hmm.
floors of
So they're
circular
able
and
to
just
see each
cells.
other. They're looking at each other.
In the and in the middle, they put a tower with a
Okay.
guard in the middle, and he has shutters, so they can't tell who he's looking at. So
Okay.
with all of the prisoners changed their behavior because they felt
That someone's
that they were
looking.
being watched
Right.
at all
Right.
times.
Right.
That was enough to change their behavior. That's the one. Exactly.
Chris to your aid. There we
Thank you,
go.
Chris.
Okay.
Um,
How does it
okay.
called? Go up, scroll up for a second. Uh, Panopticon. Okay.
Sounds Greek.
Okay.
So, yeah, probably some great thinker solved that problem and came up with that. So,
Mm-hmm.
it turned out you didn't even need to have a guy in there or he could be sleeping because the perception of
Mm.
constant surveillance is enough
Right.
to
To
change your
affect human
behavior,
behavior.
to
Yeah.
affect your behavior. Right. Now, let me ask you a question.
Right.
If you and me and Chris happen to be in a private conversation, not on the air,
Yes.
would you say that it might be possible that we can start to flex our ideas, maybe try and say some things together that we wouldn't necessarily want to say on the air in case it was misinterpreted or out of context? Or if
Yes,
you're
of
sitting at
course.
home with your
Of
wife,
course. Of
okay,
course.
you're sitting at home with your
Yes.
wife who knows you for 20 years, however many years, 10 years. She knows you. She knows you have friends of every
15, 16. Yeah.
Mazel tov. So she knows you. She knows that your life is dedicated towards love. She knows you don't care about what race. You have friends from every country. You have friends from everything, right? But if some machine happened to be listening to a conversation and got one sentence and published it on all the media all across the whole world, right? Or one sentence from a politician, let's say, or whatever, that could be taken way out of context.
Sure.
So when I feel some level of privacy and I don't feel that I'm being judged, so I can
Mm-hmm.
explore ideas. Like my
Yeah.
son
Yeah.
has said things to me that may have sounded critical of somebody, but
Mm-hmm.
I understand he's trying to understand the world he's in,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because when you're home, you wouldn't say the same thing you would say on the street. When you feel some
Yeah, it's
privacy,
the this is close to what psychologists call psychological safety. Psychological safety is like a measurement, certain measurement that psychologists use, and when you the more you feel of it, the more you are prone to like come up with new ideas, suggest ideas, offer new ways of thinking, and so on. When you don't feel psychologically safe, you will stick to, you know, not rocking the boat, not coming up with something too different, unique, or innovative. So but that's with regards to social situations. But
so
it's an interesting
well, if
parallel.
you
Yeah,
feel that you're being surveilled, watched all the
right.
time,
If you feel it, that's the big
well, so
question.
privacy, so the where we are today, and who knows how
There's
much,
privacy, lack thereof, and then there's the illusion of
yeah,
privacy
right.
in between, right?
Okay, so we really just arrived at a point in our conversation where we have to make a demarcation between um, the terrible people who are trying to exploit all of this and just the concept between what's happening, because we're moving towards a situation where there is no privacy at all. Um, but the problem that we have now is that all of this is being used kind of against us or being used to exploit us. So that's we kind of need. I'm what I would like to do in our conversation is not talk about how they're getting over on us
Mhm.
and exploiting us and using it against us and big government and big tech. I don't want to talk about that. I just want to talk about the concept of what's happening,
So
that at some state everything is known. Everything is clear about everyone all the time. I mean, here's another thing. Are there things I might do if I'm alone that I wouldn't do in public?
right. Right. Well, first of all, I think
You
look.
should have you should have let that pregnant silence hang in the air for a minute and everybody could absorb that. You know, okay, you know, if everything is known and everything is clear, that's ensof, let's say. That's or
w- I wanna understand what axis are we exploring right now, because
I want to
from
take Zuckerberg out of the picture. I want to take
okay.
Google out of the picture for a minute.
Okay, so let's just
Uh,
say this. Let's just establish this, right? From below upwards, uh, to use a Kabbalistic um, concept, or if we just say, let's just say to make it simpler, from now on, from now into the future, we are developing. I'm just talking on a very physical, technical level, right? We are moving to a world where there is no privacy. That's just a fact. Ask any kind of techno-futurist. There's a lot of them today that write about the future of technology and all that. We're going into a world where the loss of privacy is inevitable. That's just all those algorithms that we talked about in the beginning and the big data that is being collected. It goes on way more than what we're aware of, and the where it's developing is even more than we can imagine. And it has to do with everything, the future of medicine, how information about your body will be collected from your toilet and from your phone and from your clothes and from it has to do with a lot of things, all of those
Hold on a
digital
second. Hold on a
technologies.
second.
Yeah.
If the toilet is analyzing your stool and the refrigerator
Yeah.
knows what's inside and every piece of thing, so at a certain point and so it is constantly telling you what you need to do to be completely healthy. You need to eat like this to be healthy. You
And
need to do
of
at a certain point.
course,
You understand. You have zero free will.
and that puts the question of privacy. Wait, free will is another big thing, but that puts the question, the medicine example puts the question of privacy uh, at the center stage, because if you can uh, give those, your phone and your bathroom and your kitchen, your smart home, your smart kitchen, your smart bathroom, your smart wearables, right, like smart clothing, if you can give them information about what's happening to your body, and it can be constantly monitored and analyzed for any potential problems, you could be a whole lot healthier, because whatever disease you might be developing, you will know it far in advance. You will know it a lot before, way before there's already a symptom that makes you feel pain, and then you go to the doctor to understand what happened, and then you start calculating backwards and reverse engineer the process. If you have constant monitoring of your bodily parameters, there is so much more probability to guarantee your health and well-being. So that puts the question, for instance, and that's just one example, one area. Now you got to ask, wait, do I want this or do I not want this? But that means losing my privacy. That literally
Isn't there
is
like
what it means.
there's got to be, I don't remember which one, but I vaguely remember the concept of like all these kind of Hollywood movies where a person like chooses to give up his eternal superpowers in order to fall in love, or he wasn't like Superman did that or something.
You know what I
Like,
think? I think it's the same.
Hancock.
what
Hancock.
is it?
I'm not that
Yeah,
strong
with Will Smith, it's like he
with
couldn't get close because
Open your
whoever he
camera, would you?
loves.
Oh, the
Hey,
Chris.
all
There
right.
we
So
I'm
so what
go.
bringing
is
in
it?
a microphone.
Okay,
It was Hancock. I remember that whoever he was close to, he lost his powers, or they, I can get the details. It doesn't matter. I didn't know I was going to have to do a pop quiz about which superheroes. I just thought someone in the chat was probably going to correct us too. Go ahead.
okay, but I think this.
Continue.
Thank you. I think that the situation was he was like eternal and could never die or whatever, but then he couldn't like love or something, or he couldn't share the experience with his beloved because he was all knowing or whatever. So, you know, there's got to be another parameter, because at some point, if everything is known, so then we're just a
Wait, this is wait a second. We- We're on the one hand, we are moving to a point where your privacy, because of technology, social changes, global changes, interdependence, the world is moving towards loss of privacy from bottom up, let's call that, right? On the other hand, we talked about it briefly, not too much. We should probably talk about it more for a Kabbalah show. On the other hand, from above downwards, the system is already all knowing and all seeing. You cannot trick nature. You can't, there's nothing about your personality, your most cruelest desires, your urges that you don't want anyone to know about, and your passions that you think no one knows about. And and that, multiply that by that goes true for every person in the world. And the evolution of the rocks and the planets and the animals and all the people. From that top level of reality we call Ein Sof in Kabbalah, all of that is known. All of that is clear. There's no one to hide from. You can't hide from nature. Nature's plan knows everything about you because it designed you. All of the possible potentiality, all the potential things you might do, they're already existent in that kernel of creation, in that program that exists on the level of
And
Ensof.
actually, not knows as in like watching from the outside, but actually planned this. This is part of your. This is you're designed to be this.
Yes, we are playing out our own movie, or
But when I have some super corrupted desire inside of me, you're saying that also comes from this plan?
Say it again. When you have what?
If I have some super corrupted desire inside of me to exploit someone, to do something that's very dirty or bad, you're saying even all this comes from the creator, from the plan as well?
This is such an important point you're bringing up now. This is what Bala Sulam, Kabbalist Yehuda Ashlag, great Kabbalist from the previous century, this is what he writes about extensively in the article Peace in the World. This is our whole problem. We think that our evil traits, our negative traits, our egoistic tendencies, our instincts that just want to devour the world, and whatever the worst possible things that you can have in a human being. We think that they belong to the human being and they're up to him, and that all of that is something that has to do with the natural design, the natural makeup of that person.
That was such a mind blower. It still is to kind of comprehend that all of these thoughts and
of course, and it's a difficult, it's paradoxical. It requires some paradoxical thinking. Paradoxical thinking is I don't want to go into a whole tangent, but look it up, guys. Paradoxical thinking is the ability to hold opposite ideas at the same time. This requires some paradoxical thinking to understand what Kabbalah is saying, because as soon as I tell you something like that, you say, okay, so Kabbalists say everything comes from nature. If everything comes from nature, then there's no free choice. If there's no free choice, then you can't blame anyone who did anything bad in the world, including Hitler, right? Is that what Kabbalists are saying? Well, no, because that's where paradoxical thinking comes in, because on the one hand, it is all predetermined, all of it. On the other hand, how we experience it, how we play out the information, how the data plays out, that's up to us. So you can't uproot a certain quality in a human being. You can't try to not some, what's the word I'm looking for? Like to choke. You can't try to choke the human ego, but you can, if planted in the right environment, if given the right conditions, that has to do with free choice of human beings, then the same tendencies, and I'm talking horrible things, to kill, to whatever you want, okay? Those same tendencies will blossom in a different way, will be realized.
Hold on, just a second. Just push pause for 1 second.
Okay, whatever. I just went.
No. I want you to
here off protocol.
No, I really want you to like rip this door open and let this out. But we more or less grow up thinking that there's some. I'm talking about like most people grow up that there's some ideal of good. And then if I have bad thoughts, or if someone's bad, so that's bad. So I need to be good, right? And then now what you're saying, though, is that everyone has these things inside of them that we're constantly trying to not pay attention to, or we're only doing them in private or whatever. These things that society may say are corrupted, but you're saying, no, they're 100% normal. Not only that, they're programmed into you in nature. And even more than that, what Bala Sulam is saying is that it seems corrupted, even these horrible-ish things that through our eyes today in society today seem corrupted. It's because it's like an unripe fruit. That quality didn't reach something, but that we shouldn't think that these corrupted desires inside of us are from somewhere, from anywhere else besides that exact same program. Now, here's the thing before you continue. If
Right.
all of that was known and there's no privacy, then you'd think all of your neighbors are total freaks and you want to just like run for cover, right? Or you think you're a freak and you want to run for cover. If all of your desires and everything you search for and all that stuff is you'd be so ashamed of yourself and of everyone you know and of everyone around you that you'd want to run for cover. But if this is so it's this process
check
of
check
our
this
current
out.
state.
Check this out. As you're talking, check out what Max Franks is writing in the chat. This is great. No more privacy. Max Franks on Kabbalah Info in the chat. He writes this as you were talking. No more privacy just means no more lies or hiding. We fear it because we have things to hide, and we're threatened by others seeing us naked, just like after the fall. So
Nice.
that's
Well done,
that's
Max
a
Franks.
Max. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. The cells in your body right now, they don't hide anything from your brain. They don't need to, because they're all working with a similar intention. We want to serve the body to do what's good for its well-being. On the way there, we're also doing good for ourselves because we're part of that same body. But we each do our thing. All the information about what we do goes to the brain so it can, and to our general nervous system and so on. I'm simplifying it, so it can analyze what we're doing, and the brain constantly and the nervous system receives that information, analyzes that information. It has to know everything. What would happen if the governing operating systems of your body would not receive information about what is happening in your cells? So clearly, when you look at nature, it's very clear that transparency and privacy are required for its homeostatic performance, right? To maintain homeostasis, to keep the state of balance, and so on. When you talk about humans, when we talk about losing privacy there, that becomes a totally different thing, right? Because immediately, like Max is saying, the moment I think of losing my privacy, I think people looking at me naked, right? There's at least two things that are happening when I tell you, no, you're not going to have any privacy in the future. Number one, you think,
I think
oh my
everyone's
God.
gonna see me naked.
Okay, number one is everyone's going to see me naked. Okay, that's number one. Number two then is, oh my God, the dictators are going to be in control. They're going to get all the everyone's information, and we're going to have a dictatorship. A very Orwellian kind of view immediately emerges when you talk about loss of privacy. Now, in a society, I'm going to paint a completely unrealistic scenario right now, okay, for just a second. Tell us, you guys, in the chat, if you're with us in this exercise, in this thought exercise, okay, and what you think about it. In a future society, again, this is totally utopian. Let's say that people they feel each other like kin. We feel that we are one thing. There's love between people, but not love is such a bad word today. It's such a worn out, misrepresented, misused word. But people feel like they're one. People feel they belong to a single super collective organism. They're one with each other. They're one with nature. Let's imagine this fantastic utopian scenario for a
Feel
second.
completely fulfilled, feel safe,
And
feel that everyone around you is looking out for you and you're caring for everyone.
that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest point I wanted to make. You feel like everyone cares for you and wants your best interests, and you feel the same towards everyone else. That's the key point, okay? All of those members of that society, they all want the best for each other, just the best. There's again, utopian in that respect, right? Would you need any privacy in that situation?
It's too fantastical to even comprehend.
But you can see, okay, I agree, but you can see though that the concept of privacy is intertwined with how we feel about each other, with love between people or the lack thereof. In a family, there's less privacy. There's with your spouse, if you're in a good relationship, a working relationship, there's even less privacy. With yourself, you have no privacy because you care mostly about yourself. You know what I mean? So there is a certain equation that has to do with our need for privacy and our fear from what might happen with our information, in the hands of other people. Okay, I'll stop here. Just take us forward.
Why are you stopping?
Because I don't know. I'm not sure if you seem happy with this thought exercise.
I'm thinking it. When you go too far, I start to lose sensation of what you're talking about. A world where every single person loves each other. And everyone cares. I love that. I'm all about that.
Said it's a thought exercise. I said
it's hard.
It's a utopian thought exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mark,
okay, no, what you had something.
So Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook guy, if he needs an introduction, there's a quote. He said, privacy is no longer a social norm. Okay. However,
okay,
he spent like $30 million buying all of the properties that surround his house, so that he had a lot of privacy.
No. Okay, so here, let me backtrack and not backtrack. Pedal it back a little bit. Okay, I said I gave that disclaimer of a utopia because clearly I'm not advocating, and Kabbalists don't advocate that you should just go ahead now and not be afraid for your privacy and share everything with anyone and just hope for them to want the best for you. That's not going to happen. Our nature is opposite to that. Our nature is egoistic.
There's a gap again between
there's
our current
a gap.
state and okay.
There is a gap. Yes, exactly. No, keep going. That there's a gap between a state that we're in now and something that human evolution is pushing us towards. That's what's happening from above downwards, from the level of the system called Ein Sof that knows the program that designed everything that we're going through. It's all known. There's no privacy there. We're a collective entity there that exists in a state of perfection and in a state of complete unbounded connection. We're literally one, and there's no privacy there. In our state, 21st century humans, we feel fearful towards the loss of our privacy, and rightly so, because there needs to be some evolution of the human together with this evolution of technology. And that's where our development is pushing us with this loss of privacy that's increasing. We're gonna have to close the gap. There's gonna be some upgrade that we're gonna have to undergo if we are to live in a society with less privacy in a beneficial way, without that going to very horrible places. Is that okay? Does that bring it back to reality?
Right. The almost the only thing to think about when you think about losing all privacy now is some horrible dystopian future where, everyone is beholden to some technocratic overlords who mine us for our life force and, make some horrible, very, very, uh, it's actually very, very possible and very, very realistic that it might take something that horrible. Uh, but I hope that we can avoid that. But that's, all of those pieces, also the way that nature develops us. It's the same way when a baby is born.
Mm,
Um, the baby is, feet down. And then before the baby is born, it flips. And
right.
that,
In the
all of
womb.
that
Yeah.
in the womb before
Hmm.
it comes out,
Yeah.
head, you live your whole life with your head up, but before you're born, you flip in the womb. In order to be born, your head has to be the lowest part. There's
Hmm.
that comes from spiritual roots. We learn that in
Yes.
the Tree of Life by the Ari, and we learn it through Bala Salam's Talmud Eser Sfirot, which is commentary on the Ari's Tree of Life. All of that process of the embryo taking place
Hmm.
and fixing itself inside the womb. All of those stories um, in the Bible about how difficult it was to get pregnant
To
from all of the,
conceive.
all
Yeah.
of this. It's all a spiritual, right? It's all talking about a spiritual process. Um,
Yes. It's talking
so
about the
so
spiritual process of adaptation of of human nature to the nature of the spiritual world.
so
That's really what it's about.
so there's okay. So there's this very, very interesting and important thing that we start to feel and acclimate ourselves to in the wisdom of Kabbalah, that is always like a thing and its opposite. That we're always
Yes.
learning, the light and the darkness and the light, the vessel and the
Paradoxical, that's
filling.
what I referred to as paradoxical thinking. You
Okay,
really, if you go deep this is just a word for our friends, viewers who are watching this, and some are, people are in different stages of what they're familiar with in terms of Kabbalah. I would say that this is an important key, that if you the deeper you go into Kabbalah, the more read the authentic texts and understand the wisdom, the more you develop this dual paradox. They call it paradoxical thinking, psychologists, but it's actually a measure of intelligence. It's a measure of how people perform on cognitive tasks, things like that, because it's the ability of being between
it doesn't
opposites.
have to do with
Yeah.
IQ or something like that. By the
No,
way,
no,
it's
not
not
that.
about
Not
smart
that.
person.
It's just. What I'm trying to say is that it's a measurement that has to do with someone's development, and not the other
Spiritual
way around.
development, it means that you're capable of holding within you, to be like God, knowing good and evil. It means that you're able to hold within you the reality. The reality is really just, all the reality is just upper light. It's just all white light everywhere. We can't perceive that. The light, why is space black? It's totally dark. Even though the
Right.
sun is traveling for millions of miles through it, it's filled with
Mm,
sunlight. Here's the earth, it's light. There's the sun shooting light down here, but the whole space in between is dark.
yeah.
Why? It should be filled with light. The whole thing should be light all the way, all the time. You don't
Yeah.
see the light until it hits something.
Yeah. There's no
Same
no
same
friction,
cons
no contrast, no oppositeness. Yeah.
Right. So
Exactly.
same concept here, that all of this kind of dystopian stuff, all of these thoughts inside of us, all these corruption, sexual desires, murder, all these terrible things that arise in each and every person. But it's like the feet are down and then it flips, meaning it's like, in order for us to perceive all of this, the whole system, that Ein Sof, the whole system, we need to experience. I'm trying to relate it to that dystopian kind of
Mm-hmm.
why all of this development and why the internet and why we all now, everything is known and everything is heard and everything is seen, because then there'll be a flip into a spiritual reality. it's I need your help here to kind of get
No,
these words
no,
out.
I'll just riff on something interesting that you brought up. No, uh, in the animal kingdom, there's no such concept of the right for privacy. There are some survival instincts that animals work according to, and if that means that, mama monkey has to be alone in a certain place to do something, she would do it. But it's not like there is this conscious right for privacy. And if you also think about uh, privacy, all throughout history, it's actually a very new concept. It's something that, developed only in the last 150 years or something like that. For the vast majority of human history, let's say the 200,000 years in which we exist as Homo sapiens, the most of those years, we lived like in groups of tribes, dozens of people living together. Everyone knows about everything, everything about everyone. The what Our need for privacy, which has grown dramatically in the last 150 years and became something that is a part of, the right for privacy became something, fixated in laws, only in the last from the 19th century, I believe. So the why does this happen? It's unique to human beings. That's where what I think is really important here. This The fact that we need privacy, that we want privacy, and on the other hand, that we are now going to lose it with the advance of technology and so forth, and that becomes a very frightening feeling. Like you say, I'm starting to think about, wow, will people know about things that I'm ashamed of, things about myself that I feel shameful about? That's a difficult feeling. This is a scrutiny and a conscious evolutionary stage that only the human being goes through, and it has a direct spiritual root. It has a direct spiritual root. In fact, the spiritual shame that was sensed by the created being at the fourth phase of its creation, the fourth and final phase, after it was created through 4 phases of direct light, that was the point that brought about the development of all those 125 degrees of concealment that put us in this world completely detached from a reality of being connected to a governing force that created us, and yet completely conscious of ourselves. And all of that concealment from Ein Sof to the level of this material experience, all of that happened in order to hide the spiritual shame that the created being felt at that non-material level after the fourth phase of direct light, the fourth phase of direct light. So, where are we?
I went to search for a song and I came back. You're talking about the 4th phase of direct light. Chris, we're gonna have to task you with finding a song now because I lost. I don't know where I am.
I am seeing I'm seeing a lot of friends here in the chat. I hope you are with us, and I hope this.
What just happened, by the way, in the last 2 minutes while I was?
I hope it didn't become a private conversation.
Hold on, wait.
Yeah.
There was a good. I saw a comment. I know there was a lot going on in the chat, but there was.
Yeah,
one
this
that we
is the
could do
thing.
before we
I
go.
gotta be exposed here, and I really feel like there has to be a better way for us to integrate all the stuff that's happening in the chat. We do see it, guys. You guys, we do see
Well,
it
how about this one?
a lot of the time,
Melissa,
and,
hold-
and it inspires what we talk about. But we don't always find the way to integrate it directly into the show. Yeah. but it's really good stuff, and we read it afterwards too. There's a lot of interesting things and that inspire us.
Actually, we need another half an hour to open these up. But anyway, Melissa, Shannon, Steve, Seraphim. Oh, Seraphim, I think I recognize you from over in Kabu. Where's all these? Who asked that comment before? I didn't recognize
Max.
that name. Max and Hamful Spirit and Debbie and Ben and Yetzi and everyone. Thank you so much
Hey, Hadul.
for joining the conversation. Right.
Yeah, hey, Corey. All right, you guys. Yes, and there's a yeah, hey, Patricia, Kiko, John,
Isoki,
yeah, Walter, hey,
Raina.
Azriel, hey,
All right,
what's
all
up?
right.
Yes. We're not
We
gonna.
love you
It's
all.
not.
Big
It's not
big
gonna end.
hug.
Yeah. Roll the outro. Wrap up the show and put us on a.
Everybody, it's the great transition where we look at what's going on in the world through the lens of the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah. We're here every week at 2 p.m. Eastern. And like Saf said, we are always, we read all of the comments. We don't get the chance to really focus on them during the show, but we're checking them out after the show. We stick around. Chris, Asaf, and I were reading. We're talking about what you're talking about. We're interested in knowing what you're interested in. We will be back. We will do this together. We will reveal the good life. So be strong, be confident, and we will see you next time.
To belong, to come here as a friend. The light is strong to touch your soul at last. I need you to show me something good. Something to happen. We did turn.